Mr. Speaker, sir, I will be requesting your indulgence so that I read the two concurrent statements so that if my colleagues want to put any comment across, it will be easier. So I hope, Mr. Speaker, you will allow me to read the two statements concurrently. Mr. Speaker, I request for statement on the ratification and implementation of appropriate scheme of service for clinical officers in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on the ratification and use of appropriate scheme of service for clinical officers in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the statement, the committee should, 1, explain why the Ministries of Health and Public Service, Gender, and Affirmative Action have failed to ratify and implement the 2022 draft scheme of service for clinical officers in Kenya. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, state why the Ministry of Health has not concluded the collective bargaining agreement, CBA, negotiations with the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers and the implementation of return to work formula of October 2010. Mr. Speaker, sir, number 3, explain why the Ministry of Public Service, Gender, and Affirmative Action has failed to issue a directive to county governments, 47 of them, that continue to engage clinical officers using the 2014 scheme of service, despite circular advising them to use the 2020 draft scheme of service across the counties. Mr. Speaker, sir, finally, state when the ministry will issue the correction circular to cover diploma clinical officers whose job descriptions are similar to those in the scheme of service at Job Group J and K, Mr. Speaker. So that's my first statement. Mr. Speaker, the second statement, request for statement on the state of affairs at Kenyatta International Convention Center. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on the state of affairs of Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC. Mr. Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, appraise the Senate on the state of KICC management, providing the corporation current financial position in terms of assets and liabilities. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, state reasons, if any, for the failure by Kenyatta International Conference Center management to ensure general cleanliness and availability of basic amenities at the facilities. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, disclose the terms of engagement in the contract between Kenyatta International Conference Center, KICC, and Lavington Security Limited, which is providing security services at the premises. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, sir, state the measures, if any, being taken by KICC to ensure security of tenants and staff. And Mr. Speaker, you are aware, most of the senators and parliamentarians have offices in KICC, in view of the current access by all manner of unauthorized persons into the building. And finally, Mr. Speaker, provide an updated list of all contracted service providers at the Kenyatta International Conference Center. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.